So the Battletech Kickstarter has hit over $1 million, easily over $1 million. And I have to say, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. I am a little bit surprised. We're not even quite halfway through the campaign, but we're getting close. I thought it would hit a little bit after halfway through. So to be at $1 million at this point, it was like 1.2 million, a little bit over on there. And essentially we've obliterated every stretch goal, although in my opinion, they really weren't stretch goals. They're just kind of extra on there because it's content that's already been created or it's digital content. But what has really caught my attention is the massive amount of, especially Inner Sphere, Lance packs. I believe that every classic mech in the Inner Sphere from the tech manuals is essentially accounted for. Even some of the kind of the second tier, the second line ones, like the Bombardier, which is a fantastic mech, that's in there also. And that's before we even get into the clans. The clan type stuff, that's pretty crazy. So we have both sides. And I think at this point, my attack plan has to be realistic. It has to be a little bit more realistic in that I'm going to focus on, of course, the clan invasion set. And from there, look at about half of the Lance packs on the Inner Sphere, just to get that moving. Because I'd say 70-80% of my games are Succession Era, Inner Sphere. And then retail, we'll pick up the clan packs. But now this kind of pushes into the question for retail because there were some interesting comments and updates. I don't think it was on the Kickstarter itself. I actually think it was on one of the forums, or it wasn't on Reddit. It was somewhere, but basically Catalyst talking about and being very transparent, very upfront, which I appreciate, the cost of the molds. How if you're looking at like the clan set and the 2 starter Inner Sphere set Lance packs to go with that, if you factor in the cost of the mold, the time to render it, come up with the models, the time to send everything, to proofread, to print all the material, just in that, before we even get into physical production costs and logistics, you are already $100,000 in. And that makes complete sense. And they were also talking about this idea where the Kickstarter is really stuff that you already had in the works. There's really no new exclusives. You're not creating anything exclusive, and given the time frame, it seems like a lot of these renders were completed. So why even go to Kickstarter? Why even push into that? And the response back was that the clan invasion set and some of those early packs were already kind of in the works. They were kind of already making their way through the pipeline, but the decision process was to accelerate. So much like the Game of Armored Combat and the intro set, the plan was to kind of accelerate that process by going to Kickstarter. And with over $1 million in funds, now that really opens up absolutely everything. And I think possibly their timeline has been now really shortened. So some of these other Lance packs and Star packs, they might have initially been designed with the idea being, look, we'll release them in like 2 or 3 years. Now they're up front. But I have to say, and I'm pretty sure they state that, this is all not going to be released like wave 1. This is going to be over 2 or 3 waves. It's going to push out over time on there. So I have to kind of wonder, I'm sitting here looking at this, maybe go in as Star Commander or maybe Blood Named, looking at this and saying, does it really make sense? Does it really make sense? Of course, if one has infinite funds, doesn't matter. You throw enough money at the wall, it's not a problem. But if you're looking to juggle your resources and, play a little bit conservative with it, does it make sense to really go in for all of these packs and really go in beyond the initial core invasion and the other 2 Lance packs and 2 Star packs? Because that's all that's done. That's all that, in essence, is ready to go to the printers and for distribution. Can Catalyst really deal with the compressed timeline? That's what I wonder. You've got a massive war chest. I mean, this is going to probably end at 1.5, 1.8. I don't think it's going to go to 2 million, but let's say it ends at 1.8 on there. That's a pretty sizable war chest for what, an 8-person team Are they going to be able to turn that around, to turn all these Lance packs around, which are essentially the old Alpha Strike packs updated? Fantastic, excellent, especially with the new Alpha Strike reimaged book that's out there. I don't think you can do that in a year. I don't think you can do that in 2 years. So would a person want to lock their money up in that? Of course, okay, in theory you have that locked in, you're going to get it, but these aren't web exclusives. This is not a limited print run. The idea is this will be in regular distribution and print run. But then we hit the wall of, can Catalyst keep up with the demand on there? That's what a friend of mine was talking about, saying he had played Battletech a long time ago, kind of really didn't like the 80s type vibe in the miniatures there and some of the differences in scale, because, I mean, he's primarily a Warhammer 40,000 hobbyist. The miniatures are the number one aspect, and he loves to customize, he loves to paint, he loves to kit bash. I mean, he'd bring a tear to an Orc Mech's eye on this. So some of the models didn't quite sit, and when he saw the Game of Armored Combat in the starter set, he was like, wow, look at these models. And I'll take a jeweler's saw to them and repose and rearticulate every joint and do it. So he was back into Battletech. But the challenge was, it was out of print for a while. Then it was back in print, then out of print, then in print. And Catalyst has done a great job keeping this in print, I have to say, compared to the previous from 5 or 6 years ago box set. So it seems like they have their logistics and supply chain in order and are doing it, again, for an 8-person team. Like, that's pretty crazy. They probably all fit in one room, right? But to compress it that much and to release, last time I looked, it was over 95 mechs. To be able to do that in a year and a half, 2 years, I don't know. Do you want to have funds tied up in that? And then, of course, once it releases retail, when you see these packs for $10, $15 versus the 20 and the 25, in my mind, the only real question is, do you believe they will make it to retail, all of it? And do you believe retail will be able to keep up and you will be part of that group that is able to keep up? I don't know. You know, that's what I'm looking at, and that's kind of the stance that I am right now. Be in for the first 25%, be in for the initial release wave on there to make sure, but then maybe let's see and kind of push out from there. Your thoughts? I have to say, what's been amazing is and just, this is not like a scientific assessment, of course, but just locally, other miniature war gamers, 40K players, Magic the Gathering players, well, they're not miniature gamers, but other kind of people involved in the sphere of the hobby, they've known about Battletech. Some thought it died out. Some thinks it continues on. Some thinks it's a dead game. It's a very kind of small community, you know, even here in New York and stuff. Maybe it's existed, maybe it hasn't. There's been massive surprise by the mainstream gaming community where it's like, oh my God, over $1 million for Battletech? Wow, look at these new sets, the Armored Combat, the redesigned maps. Like, really, really surprised. Like, it's like almost like Battletech's been resurrected from the dead. And those of us in the community are like, no, Battletech has never been dead. It's just been very, very kind of closed off. And of course, existing parallel between the video games. But I do believe the video games and the updated mechs and how they look in there, I think there's a whole fan base, and this is fantastic for the hobby. I think there's a whole fan base that has played the video games, and that's been their exposure. So now that you literally have stuff that maps, a board game, a war game that maps over to that, they're like, wow, count me in. This is amazing. And I think part of that million plus, or part of that push to 1.8 million is easily going to be from that contingent of video game players moving into tabletop on there, bringing back tabletop players. But it's been really intriguing watching 40K players surprised that Battletech is resurrected, surprised at how good Battletech is doing, surprised to start seeing mainstream Battletech games, at the shop and stuff alongside 40K. And I've been a 40K enthusiast since Rogue Trader, and I've been saying all along, like, Battletech has never been dead. It's just kind of been moving along and kind of playing and kind of pushing. And I do have to say, Catalyst, more than, MechWarrior Hero Clicks or any of the other iterations, this is Battletech 2.0. As in, the rules are the same, but the models, the presentation, the cleanup, the narrative, the visuals, everything is like, wow, so revamped, so new. It is really, really incredible. This is an amazing time to be jumping into Battletech.